today we are talking about the 7 habits of highly effective and ambitious writers. I'm Melody, I'm your host. Have you heard of community publishing? If you have a book in you, Author Nation will help you create a roadmap to success. Then join the community to receive the structure, accountability, and the inspiration to finish and publish your book. Grab our planning checklist at authornation.online to get yourself started. It is scrolling past you right now, and it is in the description. Our guest, Lizette Wanzer's work has appeared in over 25 literary journals, books, and magazines. Her book, Trauma, Tresses, and Truth, Untangling Our Hair Through Personal Narratives, is out, published by Chicago Review Press. The title has already landed on Library Journal editors' recommended reading list. Lizette is a contributor to Lyric Essays as Resistance, Truth from the Margins, Civil Liberties United, Diverse Voices from the San Francisco Bay Area, and The Chalk Circle, intercultural prize-winning essays. Lizette has received grants from the Center of Cultural Innovation, San Francisco's Arts Commission, California Arts Council, Yerba Buena Center for the Arts, and California Humanities, a National Endowment for Humanities partner. Let's welcome Lizette Wanzer. Hello, Lizette. How are you today?
Good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to be here today. So first, I really need to ask this question because it's you are an author who's in this beautiful position that many authors want to be in. So tell us a bit how you became to be this author who's been invited to over 10 writer in residences, for example, and all these grants. And tell us a little bit about how you got there.
Well, one of the main lessons that I stress in my professional development workshops that I teach is that writers should always have some sort of work circulating. There should always be something out to a writing contest, whether that's short stories, poems, articles, literary journals, query letters to agents or publishers, whatever, or applying to read your work at conferences, etc. So there shouldn't be any fallow months in your literary calendar. Something should always be under consideration at a market for an opportunity. So that's how I've built my publishing record in 3 genres. And that's how I've wound up getting, presenting my work at 11 conferences, being awarded a combination of, I think now it's going to be 11 residencies, about 10 grants, and 3 fellowships. So, and then of course, after a while, your record starts to vouch for you, right? So the more grants and residencies you've earned, the easier it is to get the next one. And the higher caliber they are, then the easier it is to get the next one.
Yeah.
So the business side grunt work has to occur first, and you have to keep getting your work out there. That's how you do that. And there are a lot of writers out there that go from residency to residency, and we all give each other recommendations about which ones to do and which ones to stay away from. So networking is part of it also.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you so much, because I know that there are people out there saying, like, how do I become her, right? So thank you for that. And I just want to very quickly say hi. Aisha is saying hi, and I just want to say hi back. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really glad you're here. You're going to love it. All right. So how do you see your role in the literary world?
In my view, writing, like all of the arts, is a profession that chooses you rather than the other way around. So because of that, I don't think I can claim to have one particular role, but I do have a calling in the literary world. And for me, that's to teach professional development to creative writers. Because so few of us get a professional practices course in our programs, even in our MFA programs. It's still considered taboo to speak about market concerns and the business of making a realistic living as an author outside of the academy, if you're not going to, be a professor. So
Yeah.
I see that often musicians and visual artists and theater artists, they get a course like that as part of their programs, as part of their curricula. But most writing MFA programs still don't. Most still don't do that. So, you've written your thesis and you know critical theory, and you know how to give critique, and you know how to finish an ambitious long work, your capstone project or whatever. But how do you go about actually carving out a life as an author after your degree? And our programs really don't cover that. There are some exceptions, but the majority of programs do not cover that. So there's a gap there. And I'm filling that gap and saving people a lot of the pain and time and strife that I went through learning these things the hard way.
Yeah. That's amazing, because it's one thing, to have an MFA and to be able to write beautiful works. It's another thing to get those works in front of people and be seen and have people love it and inspire them to, refer you and recommend you and get you that next, writer in residence or whatever it is. So that's amazing. We definitely need that. I see that a lot as well. And so
Yeah, the students who come to my workshops, what they're lacking is they have all those skills you just mentioned, but they don't have an understanding that you can't just wait for something to happen because you're talented. You have to compel something to happen.
Yes.
And you can't just sit around waiting for someone to discover your work, no matter how excellent it is. You have to make your work discoverable.
Yeah, exactly. And it's interesting, because I sometimes say to authors, look, if you build it, they won't come. You have to invite them.
I like that.
Yeah, it's kind of how I feel that. Yeah, please go ahead. Please go ahead. Yeah. And what about your body of work? How do you want your body of work? Because one thing is your calling and how you're helping, but then there's your body of work. So how do you want your body of work to impact the world?
I think that my work tends to turn a divergent gaze or a different type of lens on Black girlhood and Black womanhood.
Yeah.
And I know that's the case because the industry has told me time and again over the years that either my work is not Black enough or it's too Black.
Right.
I've had publishers accept my short stories or poems for their literary journals. And then when it comes time to send in the bio that they publish with it and the headshot, they're shocked to see that I'm African American. And I know back in the day when I was very young and first started publishing, I actually published as L.E. Wanzer because I thought that would give me an edge. And I think it did, because editors would then be surprised to find that I was a woman.
Right.
So there's no one story of Black girlhood or Black womanhood. Bell Hooks said that first. So I'm borrowing from her. And so my goal is to unseat those stereotypes and unsettle the lenses and expectations that the industry views me through and misconstrues me through.
Yeah. It's time for the white establishment to not dictate.
And not assume.
Right. Not dictate, not assume, not control, I believe. Right. And to stop controlling what it means to be not male, not white, not, cis, not, and to let those voices come forward without that control, right? Without those expectations, and to discover what's true. Right? As you say in your book, right? Truth. So, and we'll get into that. Yeah. Let's get into it now. So I love the story of how the book came to be, right? This whole, in marketing, they say, figure out what people want and create that. And what I think happened was, people came to you and said, wait, you're telling these stories, you're on, you're talking about this, where's the book? And so can you give us that story a little bit and tell us about that?
Okay, so here's the truth of the matter. I was trying to get a panel accepted to AWP.
Yeah.
the Association of Writers and Writing Programs, the big Mecca conference they have every year. And I had been applying there for 3 or 4 times and never got accepted. And the last conference I went to, which was in Portland in 2019, I actually attended their session that's called How to Submit a Strong Submission for AWP. And I got some pointers from that. And then I also read through a lot of the catalog. I just read it, the way people put their titles together, the way they wrote their descriptions. So I came up with a title that had an alliteration because I see they like that a lot.
Yes.
And then came up with a nice tight description, and they accepted this one. So we went and did it in San Antonio, 2020, right before the coronavirus lockdowns. And we had standing room only audience. And then 6 women came up to me afterwards and said, "Oh, so where's the book? Is it in the book fair? Can we go down and get it?" And of course, there was no book. And I didn't think that idea had any legs as a book. So I was flattered, but I was like, yeah, this doesn't really, I got what I wanted. I got to AWP and presented. Then Breonna Taylor and George Floyd happened just a couple months later. Mm-hmm. And then the summer of 2020 happened. I call it the summer of racial reckoning. And I was so angry and enraged every single day. It was very hard for me to function. And I thought, wait a minute. Hair discrimination is another form of policing. It's another form of persecution, and it's another form of erasure and discrimination. Yeah. So the one thing I can do besides, breaking curfew to attend protests and so on, is I can write. So I wrote the book proposal for this and sent it out. And then I got 4 publishing offers and 1 agent offer. And I have to say that I'm 100% convinced that sort of response would not have happened during any other year. So it was very timely. Everybody was putting platitudes on about how they're standing in racial solidarity. And then we have a president saying, to white supremacists, stand back and stand by, and all of this stuff. I don't think that would happen any other year, that kind of response.
Right. So it sounds like timing was really, really important.
Timing and impersonal catharsis for me.
Yes.
Helped me, deal with the rage I was experiencing that summer.
Yeah, yeah. And so once you dove into the project, what was the hope for the book, and what was the hope for the contributors?
So the vast majority of contributors in this book are already well-respected and well-published authors and scholars in their own right. So what I'm trying to do now, as far as the contributors go, is I'm offering as many publicity opportunities to them as I can and trying to spread those opportunities around. So that's not the same people all the time. So we've done a number of panels at different conferences where I've invited contributors to present with me. We have a book launch this Sunday coming up in Oakland. And I've got different contributors for that. Then we've got the one coming up in San Francisco next month. I've got different contributors for that. So I'm trying to spread the love so that they have something to boast about and feel that they're not just contributors, but that this is important for them. They should be, riffing off of it, and they should be mentioning it on social media and doing events on their own, even where they live. So that's what I'm hoping for the contributors. A lot of them, though, are already quite storied in their own right.
Yeah.
And then my hope for the book. This is lofty and it's very long shot, but I'm hoping that this book will help move the needle on getting a national federal Crown Act for the country. So right now we have a patchwork of states that have passed the Crown Act. I think we're up to 18. And then there are also some municipalities that have passed the Crown Act. For example, New Orleans has, but not the rest of Louisiana. So I'm hoping this will help move the needle. It's sitting in the Senate again, where it's been before, and it tends to tank there all the time.
Yeah.
And I'd like it to this time pass in the Senate.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because I was actually looking that up before the interview. I was like, okay, I know it was, it was moving at the federal level, but then what happened? And I was trying to figure that out. through some Google research, but I didn't get very far on that. There doesn't seem to be a lot of media around this failed and it failed for this. And, so very, very quickly, for people who don't know, can you explain the Crown Act?
Yes.
Just very, yeah.
So CROWN is both an acronym and it's synonym and metaphor. So CROWN, of course, meaning the hair on our heads. And the acronym is Create a Respectful and Open Workplace for Natural Hair.
Yeah.
So Holly Mitchell, Senator, she was a senator when she introduced this in 2019, but she's now on the Board of Supervisors in Los Angeles. She introduced it to make it illegal to discriminate against our hair, like braids and locks and twists in the workplace.
Yes.
And then our state assembly passed it, and Governor Newsom signed the bill into law on July 3rd, 2020, which is now known as National Crown Day. It's passed the House twice and always tanked in the Senate. So it's sitting in the Senate again. Senator Cory Booker championed it. It's been sitting there since the spring.
Yeah. So let's just keep, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And just, just what a bizarre, it's just so bizarre. It's like to be sent home because of your hair from work. It just, it's, okay.
Yep.
Now we could go on. We could go on on that forever. Let's focus on the book. So tell us a little bit about the book. Tell us about the structure of the book, how you created the flow of stories. Like, tell us a little bit about that.
So when you get the book, you'll see that it's divided into 4 sections of essays, and then there is one poem opening each section. There's also artwork by Sal Steiner, who has contributed 1 drawing per essay. And then the cover artist, I should say, is an artist who goes by the name W. So section 1 is called A Critical Lens. And that's where the essays interrogate the topic of natural hair from a more expository viewpoint. So it's more philosophical, more postulative, and it's combined with some level of analysis. But it still does highlight the author's personal story. So that's section 1. Mm-hmm. Section 2 is called The Pilgrimage. And that one, like you might guess, traces the author's journeys into the liberation of wearing their natural hair and ensuring the Black joy they feel after making the decision to go natural and get rid of their, relaxer and their wigs or whatever.
Yeah.
And then section 3 is called Intimate Encounters, where the authors are ushering readers into the core of family relationships, because that's often where a lot of this discrimination happens, is within our families.
Yeah.
And they also just go into the unanswered questions that crystallize as a consequence of the low regard that our relatives often hold for natural hair. And then section 4 closes the book, and that's called The Unshackled Chronicles. And that's where the authors speak about their struggles to kind of grab back their hair from majority culture conformity to embracing it in its natural state as a means of triumph and self-acceptance.
Yeah.
There is an appendix, which has a reader's discussion guide in 3 parts, and it has essay and short answer questions that are suitable for reading groups, book clubs, college students, and so on. And then there's a resource guide at the end, and that's just a list of salons specializing in natural hair organizations, natural hair festivals in the US and in other countries, and things like that, children's books, films that address the topic, and so on.
Yeah, beautiful. And how did you put that together? Like, did the 4 topics come first, or did the contributors come first, or?
The contributors came first, and then I had all of this good work. I did several deep edits on it, and then started to think, how can I shape this? And I realized, I knew I didn't want 10 essays about hot comb stories.
Yes.
So in some instances, I went back to contributors and said, I kind of already have an essay that's emphasizing that. Could you maybe switch and emphasize such and such more? And by doing that, I was able to get the 4 divisions. And also working with my editor, Carrie Rada at Chicago Review Press. And she had some great ideas also about how we might shape the book and find a home for each of the essays.
Nice, nice, beautiful. Yeah, and there's it's interesting because and you want to talk about the harm, but you also want to find some joy and hope, and and then putting them all together. It's a really interesting process to do an anthology, and to kind of
Yes.
find the way to put that all together. Yeah. What would you like readers to walk away with?
This will depend on who the readers are.
Yes.
Um, so I want readers who haven't had to contend with this type of discrimination
Yeah.
to learn why it's not okay to just walk up and touch my hair and paw and grab our hair. Why it's not okay to claim that afros or dreadlocks or neat braids are unprofessional.
Mm.
Um, to understand why it's not okay to send children home from school because they come to school one day with their hair in an afro or they're wearing bantu knots, and they're being told their hair is too big or distracting. And I also want them to know why so many Black women in professional and academic life and public life feel pressure to straighten their hair and
Mm.
get weaves and relaxers. I had someone from Germany reach out to me on LinkedIn and say, I always was curious about why Black women in the news never wore their hair natural. And she had found out about the book and she said she was going to order it. So
Yeah.
that's what I want readers to take away from this, and to understand that very, very few in America, very few Black women get out of childhood without having a series of humiliating or confusing or embarrassing situations regarding their hair.
Yeah.
And there's quite a bit of flack from white males coming to me on Facebook about this, and they don't get it. Probably they're not the ones who will pick up this book, so they may never get it. But if one or two of them were to pick up this book, this would school them.
Right, right. So wouldn't it be wonderful if at least a few picked up the book and opened their minds to the possibility. Thank you very much. I'm so excited about it, and it's out now. So if you want the book, go grab it. You can get your copy of Trauma, Tresses, and Truth. The link is in the description. So I'd say go grab it. Now the audiobook comes out in 2 days, I believe.
Yeah.
Yes. So and so that will, the links down there will cover the audiobook as well. So go grab your copy. Okay, Lizette, I really want to talk about the 7 habits because you are a highly effective and ambitious creative writer. So I really want to talk about those. So what are the 7 habits?
Okay, so the 7 habits that I teach in my workshops. First one is to create and use a literary calendar. Do you want me to go into that, or you just want the 7 habits?
That's up to you. If you would like to say one and then describe, and that's beautiful. And if you want to just
Okay.
listen out and we'll talk, beautiful.
Okay, so what is a literary calendar? That is where you put which project or article or story or poem to work on and when you're going to work on it. And it has to be specific. You pick a specific day and specific hours that you block out. And it can be a recurring or, one time or whatever, but you have to block it out specifically and then say specifically what you're working on at that time. This is also where you put reminders for when to begin a scholarship application or a residency application. This is where you put designated days when you'll concentrate on submitting, just submitting, sending out to publications and to contests and to festivals, whatever. Also, designated days when you will just research places to send your work. Just looking up markets and saying, is that a fit for my work? Is this a grant that I can apply to? Is this a conference where they might accept me to read my fiction? So this practice of the literary calendar turns out to be the basis for all the other habits that we learn in the workshop. So that's 1.
Yeah.
2 is use a professional submissions tracking tool. So not a spreadsheet, not tables that you've cobbled together in Word, and certainly not a handwritten list. Okay, a professional submission tracking tool is electronic, it's automated, it saves time, it increases accuracy, and many of them, there are many different kinds, allow you to generate year-end reports for filing Schedule C with your taxes, right? How much did you spend submitting? How much did you earn with freelance work or contest wins or grants or what have you? And they often have markets that are already pre-populated with all the information you need. So you don't have to spend time finding who's the editor or who's the fiction editor, what's the address, what's the correct email, what's the word count, and all of that. And some of them can suggest markets for you based on what you've already submitted. And several have real-time algorithms that will tell you when you can realistically expect a response, right? So if you're reading Writer's Market and it says this market responds in 60 days, but then you get on a submission tracker and the real-time algorithm shows that it's more like 90 days, then you know that after 2 months, you shouldn't be pressuring them to give you a response.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's two.
That's two. Three
Next one.
is review an opportunities database regularly. And this is something that goes on your literary calendar. So whether it's one Saturday a month or every Tuesday from 6 to 7:30, I'm going to review a list of opportunities. I'm just reviewing them. I'm not actually doing a submission.
Yeah.
And this is a vital step in your plan of attack because you need to choose one or two of these to review on a regular basis to ensure what I said at the top of the show which is that you have work circulating under consideration all the time.
Yes.
And this is the way you can do that.
Yeah. And when you said that earlier, have work, circulating and submitting all of the time, it was like, okay, I know that a lot of authors don't do that. They submit something and then they wait.
Yes.
And they wait, and they submit, and so, and there's the fear of, I can't produce that much, right? So how do you deal with that piece of this kind of review opportunities and always have something going? How do you deal with that?
Well, another thing you put in your calendar is the time when you're going to actually be writing. So make sure you honor that and stick to it and don't sit down during your writing time and then decide, the carpet needs vacuuming, or, I need to run an errand to Walgreens, or, it's time to walk the dog, or so on, it's time to play with the kids. You have to sit down and really honor that time, like a real job, so that you do get the writing done. And even if you're writing a novel, you can send out novel excerpts. There are contests and grants and journals that will accept novel excerpts.
Nice. So is that one of the habits then? Set aside writing time?
It's not, but
okay.
That's assumed that you're doing that if you're taking my class, that you are writing.
Okay. Got it. Okay, perfect. And then so we're on habit 4.
4, maintain an author LinkedIn profile, which is separate from any day job profile you may have. Okay, in the 21st century, this is a must. All sorts of artists are on LinkedIn. The days when it was only for doctors and attorneys and, investment bankers, those days are over. When you're applying, especially for funding or for fellowships, they are looking for you on here. You can see when they've looked. And sometimes the applications will have a spot for you to put your LinkedIn on there. Okay, so they're expecting to see an author profile that not just showcases your publications and the grants you've received and your organizations, but show that you fully comprehend that writing is a business and not just an art. It shows that you're not a weekend warrior. You're not just a hobbyist. Nobody wants to fund that. You view yourself as a professional, which is the first step to ensuring that others see you as professional too, right? Even before you have a lengthy publications list.
Yeah.
You have the unique profile URL, not the gobbledygook one that LinkedIn assigns you. You have a professionally posed headshot, well lit, and so on. It shows that you are a good literary citizen.
Yeah. So this LinkedIn profile, if you have one for your work, you should also have another one for you as an author. So you should have 2 separate ones, 2 separate emails, really like pull those apart. What if What would you say to somebody who says, but my job and my writing are really, like I'm an expert in this field and I write books in that. Should you still have a separate profile or?
It depends. I have had students who are editors on magazines, for example,
Right.
and that's their day job. They may write fiction and poetry also in the evenings, but they are an editor of a literary journal. So
Mhm.
that makes sense to keep it to one profile.
Okay.
Um, However, if the writing you're doing is technical writing for, Apple, I would still have a separate profile.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. All right. We are on habit number 5.
Which is write an artist statement. You have to have one. And this is a statement that you'll update regularly. It will grow with you. Um, a literary artist statement is a first person narrative. So it's not like a bio, which is third person. It's first person and should give the reader a full circumference view of you as a writer. So readers should feel more connected to your work after they read this. You want to talk about your influences and your inspirations that undergird your work.
Mm.
And this statement will often stand in for you when funding and grant and MFA committees are sitting around the table and you can't be there, right? So this is a chance for you to shape the reader's lens of your work. And
Yeah.
you'll definitely need one if you want to get funding.
Yeah.
Or a residency. You'll definitely need an artist statement.
All right. And how long should these be?
A page or
Just
less.
like a page or less. So
Yep.
8.5 by 11 typed up. Don't go to page 2. If you go to
Right.
page 2, it's too long, right?
Right.
So half a page, a page. Okay,
Yes.
perfect,
Mhm.
perfect. Thank you. And before we go on to number 6, Pasha had a quick question. She said, I wonder if you could name one of the apps you mentioned to keep track of all the writing that she would recommend and where to download it and to keep it safe. So I think Pasha's talking about number 2, personal submission tracking tool.
Mhm.
So, can you give us a little bit more information on those or make a suggestion on where to find one or make a
Mhm.
suggestion for one?
There are several. Some of them are web-based and some of them are software-based. So Duotrope is a very popular one. The Grinder is another one. The Luminary Writers Database is one. That one is writersdb.com. There's one called, I think it's called Chronicle Vita. That's another one. There are many. We explore several of them in the workshop, and then everyone chooses one that they feel is best suited to them.
Right.
Some of them are free, some of them you pay for, some of them have more features, some have less. Some people pick others because they like the graphics on it. So it depends. The one that's best for you is the one that you'll actually use.
Right. Yes, the one that is user friendly and makes
Right.
sense to you and
To you.
whatnot. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. So we are on to habit number 6.
That is join a professional literary organization.
Mm-hmm.
So I belong to the National Writers Union. I belong to the Authors Guild. I belong to the Popular and American Culture Association. Join a professional literary organization. And why? It again professionalizes you and it shows your commitment to the industry. It helps you keep abreast of where conversations are moving in the industry. It provides crucial networking opportunities, access to conferences, and fun stuff like vendor discounts on rental cars and different shops, health insurance, which is important, contract reviews. When you finally do get a contract, never ever just sign it and read it on your own. You want a legal team to review it. And if you join a professional literary organization that has that as a member benefit, you get it for free.
Amazing.
There's grievance reviews, legal assistance if you're having trouble getting paid. And there's a chance to hold office, which looks fabulous on your literary CV.
Yes. Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you. Yes, that's one thing I'm always telling people. Join a group.
Yeah.
Join a group. Don't do this alone. Okay, we are down to number 7.
Yes, and that one is set up a dedicated budget exclusively for your writing life. This is one that's not commingled with other finances. Okay. And yes, it's tough going in the early stages before you're earning grants or, bringing in contest earnings, or maybe before you have a well-paying freelance writing or editing gig. I started mine with a lump $500 sum that I saved over several weeks from a day job. And then after that, I set up automatic transfers from my day job's direct deposit to the writing account. And it was like $20 per check. And then eventually I could do $50 per check, and then $100 per check. And I did that for years until my first major grant came in. Because I tend to borrow, I actually moved my writing account to a whole separate credit union. So it's not even with my regular bank.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's what I had to do to discipline.
Yeah, smart. Yeah. Smart. And what is the budget for?
You pay your submission fees from this, any writing related travel to conferences or workshops to this, website costs if you're not doing it yourself. All writing related costs come from that account. And then when you get anything related to writing, of course, you deposit it there, but also when you get something unexpected, like a bonus check at work, or a lucrative freelancing gig that you weren't expected, I also dump that into this account.
Okay, perfect. And you're waiting for that day. This is immediately what comes to mind. And you're waiting for the day when more writing money is going in than writing money is coming out, right? Because you're talking about funding it through the day job at first, like funding it through other ways. But the goal is, right, to have that balance out where the money from writing coming in is less than the money from writing going out, right? And that's hard, isn't it? That's really hard for a writer.
It doesn't happen overnight, but right now I'm living off of 2 grants.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm not doing a day job.
Yes, which allows you to focus full time on your writing, right?
And so because I really love teaching, so I'm not going to ever stop that. But
no, fair enough. But you don't have to do, teaching every day. You can do workshops instead of having, like, when you teach at a university, right? You have 4 classes and 100 students per or whatever you have, and that's back to a day job. Whereas you can do weekend workshops or online courses or things that support people. So brilliant! Thank you very much. When you started out, and you were developing all these habits, I just want to confirm you had a day job.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I just want to confirm that because, people are like, they're like, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to become a writer. And it's like, no, keep the day job, right? Become the writer and go from there. Right.
Yeah, it's hard. It's very hard. And it took me years to do it. I know people don't want to hear that. But if you do all of the habits, you will eventually be able to get, a $20,000 grant or a $30,000 grant that will enable you to do either very little freelancing or none at all.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So learn more about Lizette and her work at her website, www.LYZETTE'S.com. All right. So tell us, I just want a little bit about an artist statement, if you don't mind. If I'm starting out and I want to put together a writer's artist statement and I don't have a lot of writing done yet, can you just give us a couple of tips on that?
Yeah. So it's important to remember that the statement is not about a particular work. It's about you as a writer and your work, the body of work. So you're not writing about a particular story or poem or project. You're writing about your whole body of work and what your influences are. And what we do in the workshop is we do a pretty lengthy brainstorming exercise with a lot of prompts to help people think outside the box about how to talk about their writing. So, for example, I ask them, if your writing were a color, what color would it be? And why would it be that color? Or if it were a verb, what verb would it be? And why would it be that verb? I ask about influences on their work from other arts, like theater, music, dance, film. It's a very comprehensive exercise. Of course, you're not going to use all those answers and cram them into an artist statement. The idea is to get them thinking about their writing in an out of the box way. And then we go into several sessions of writing it over several weeks. There's partner critiques, and then I critique them as well. We also look at artist statements.
Yeah, nice. Thank you. And if people wanted a little bit of support with that, do you work with authors one-on-one, or do you do consulting or anything like that?
I do. I do consulting. Um, and I usually am teaching. I haven't been now because the book just came out and there's a lot of publicity stuff to do. I will start teaching again in the spring of 23. But if people are interested in one-on-one, your listeners can get a discount. If they're interested in a one-on-one coaching session for their literary resume, artist statement, writing their author bio, creating a submission strategy, they can contact me now through the end of the year through my website for a discounted consultation rate of $55. That's the same offer that I give to students who've completed 2 or more workshops with me within the past 18 months. Otherwise, the regular rate is $85. Our actual consult can occur after the new year. We don't have to cram it in now, but the session must be booked by December 31st to get the $55 rate.
Yeah. Thank you. That's very generous of you. Thank you so much. Can they book that through your website?
They can contact me. There's a contact form through my website. Tell me what you're interested in, which of those consultations, or if you're interested in multiple, and then we'll take it from there.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that offer. That is incredibly generous. Thank you. And I know that, people should be, given the opportunity to get support from someone who's been there and done that is that's so important. So, go do that is what I'm going to say. All right. So do you have a new project you're working on?
I do. I'm actually working on the book that my students have been asking for years. And this book is called Building a Career as a Literary Artist of Color. So I have Building a Career as a Literary Artist that's open to everyone. And then I also have a workshop called Building a Career as a Literary Artist of Color that I started offering during that turbulent summer of 2020. So it is based off of that workshop. And students complete the workshop and then ask, where's the workbook so we can continue with the practices we've learned over the 6 weeks? Since BIPOC writers do have concerns that are particular to them vis-a-vis the publishing industry and how we're regarded, the knee-jerk shelving and categorization that occurs with us, and many other challenges, I'm writing this book for them.
Yeah.
And I wish I'd had a book like this 20 years ago. I wish there was a book like that now. And so that's my new project that I'm working on.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And I love how you just said that. Like, I wish this book was available to me. Some of the very best books come from that urgent, God, I wish I had this, so that's brilliant. I'm going to look forward to it. That's wonderful. Lizette, thank you so much for joining me today. I've really enjoyed our conversation. Have we missed anything?
I don't think so. I do want to say that for those of you who are in the Bay Area, we have the Marcus Books book launch in Oakland this Sunday at 1 p.m. So maybe I will see some of you there.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. So, Lizette, thank you so much for joining us, for talking about your new book. I'm really excited about it, and for talking about the 7 habits. That was amazing information. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All right. If you're out there, thank you for joining us today. We are here to provide a path for you from idea to published book. The link for the community is authornation.community, so you can go check us out there. All right, next week I will be chatting with Howard Brown and talking about his memoir, Shining Brightly.